Good morning, my name is Sally Berkery. I'm the Managing Director of CEW UK. Welcome to Landsec this morning on this very stressful morning. I think we were all wondering whether anybody would make it, so thank you ever so much for turning up and getting earlier trains, etc. Firstly, before I forget, I'm bound to forget, thank you ever so much to the team at Landsec for hosting us here in your beautiful offices. It's a wonderful space, and we'll probably be asking you every month if we can have an event here moving forward.
You're welcome.
The discussion this morning is going to be a lively panel. We'll first of all kick off with the wonderful Helen Duxbury, who is Senior Insight Manager at Circana, who's going to run through some insights. Our panel this morning is really talking about the retail evolution. It's the start of an ongoing series with Landsec, who are partners of CEW. They're the largest landlords in the UK, retail landlords, and I'm sure Ruth will talk about that in a moment. The panel is made up of Colette Laxton, co-founder of the Inkey list, Leanne Rouse from Space NK, who's Marketing Director, Ruth McFetridge, Senior Retail Leasing Director at Landsec, Ruth, and Vesa, Kalho, who is the Beauty Buying Manager at Fenwick. For those of you who don't know Catherine's on the board of CEW. She's a brand and retail expert with many years of experience in the retail sector. She's also the founder of a consultancy called Yellow Flamingo, and she works with many Indian upcoming brands in helping them establish themselves in the UK market. Anyway, without further ado, I'm handing over the mic, Helen.
Thanks, Sally. As it were, oh, it's working. Excellent. So I'm Helen Duxbury. I work for a company called Circana. Now, some of you might know previously I worked for MPD, and then we joined up with IRI, so we've become one company called Circana. MPD generally, amongst other industries, did data on prestige beauty, and IRI do data on mass beauty. So at some point in the future, we will be able to bring you a complete beauty picture, bringing together prestige and mass, which is very exciting, and no one else in the UK has the capability to do that. At the moment, the data I'm going to show you is based on our premium beauty panel, which is the retailers over on the left. I'm not going to read them all out, but we are very excited that with our October data release, we are bringing in some new retailers. So we've got the Hut Group coming in, Look Fantastic and Cult Beauty, particularly important for beauty, and then Space NK, which we're very excited about. We've been trying to get them in the panel for years, and also a website called My Origins. So they will be coming, and our coverage will then increase with these new retailers. We've been through quite a lot in the UK over the last couple of years. You know, we were all a bit bemused when the referendum voted us out of Europe, but the consumer confidence at that time was actually quite high. It was above 100%. And then we had COVID, and that was all us living through something that was completely different. We'd not been through it before. And then we saw consumer confidence get back to where it was. We were looking quite good then. And then the cost of living crisis happened. So, you know, we're in the midst of that now. We are seeing consumer confidence coming up, but I don't think we've seen the end of it. I know on the news yesterday it was all about, you know, those people with fixed rate mortgages haven't yet felt the effect of the cost of living crisis. So I think watch this space. What I can say though is about prestige beauty, you can see the dip in 2020. That's the COVID effect where stores were closed. We saw bricks and mortar stores close. We couldn't go in, we couldn't shop normally. And although we've been coming back to normal, it's taken a while for sales to reach that level. Now this over here is the latest data we have to September, and we are at that level of 2019, which I think is incredible. The one area that's still a bit behind is makeup. So fragrance has advanced a bit, makeup has narrowed a bit. If we look at that in terms of the weight of the categories, you can see during COVID, fragrance, it didn't gain sales, but it became more important to consumers. Now, one of the reasons behind that was that we were still using fragrance, even if we weren't going out. We did it at home, we did it for ourselves, we did it for the memories that it brought. And also we couldn't travel, so we couldn't replenish our favourite fragrance in travel retail or treat our daughters when we're going on holiday. So all those travel retail purchases were made locally. And you can see in 2020, makeup really got squeezed. Makeup was the category, it really struggled. We were working at home, we only had to put a flick of mascara on if we wanted to, and we didn't even have to do that. We were wearing masks, so again, no one could see our foundation, our lip colour. We were working at home, we didn't have to go out. You know, we weren't going into the office, so we weren't going out for drinks after. So makeup really, really struggled during the pandemic. What I can say now is makeup is seeing a resurgence. Makeup is coming back, which is really nice to see. The product mix is a bit different, but it's great to see we are using makeup again. This is what happened with the e-commerce and bricks and mortar. So this is the weight of the market going through online. This will change a little bit when we bring our new retailers into the panel. But look back to COVID, where 90% of the market was going through e-commerce because the shops were shut, and those that could open, such as Boots, Superdrug, it was for essential purchases only. It was because they had a pharmacy, you could buy medicines and necessities, but not your fragrance, your makeup, your prestige skincare. Since then, we've managed it a bit better. So the second lockdown at the beginning of 2021, we still saw over half of the sales going through e-commerce. And what the pandemic did, it brought e-commerce forward. Because we had to shop online, we then were shopping online. Even my mother was shopping online. And, you know, we're now at about 38% of sales going through online. And I think it would have taken a lot longer for e-commerce to get there had we not been forced into shopping online. And this is what happened in the pandemic. So the losses from bricks and mortar stores was massive. And even though we were shopping online, the sales we were making through the online channels, they didn't compensate. We were still down about 600 million. And if you think when you shop online, you've got more of a purpose. You're going to buy X, and you very often just buy that. If you're shopping in store, you have a browse round, you're tempted by this. If the beauty consultant at the counter's good, she'll get you to buy 5 products instead of the one you came in for. So that was what we lost by the bricks and mortar experience. And we see now, you know, we talk about the growth of online, but bricks and mortar is almost 70% of fragrance sales, 61% of makeup, and 55% of skincare. The only category that becomes more dominant in line with our new retailers, so Look Fantastic is all online, Cult Beauty is all online, is skincare. Because I think skincare is a lot easier to purchase online because you don't have to shade match. If you've got an influencer influencing you, you will go and want to purchase that product. For fragrance is really about scent. So we want to, if we're buying a new fragrance, we want to go in store and smell which one we like. For replenishment, for fragrances we love, we can go and shop around and online. But bricks and mortar is still key for fragrance. And also makeup for more those products that you want to colour match, whether it's a lip colour, you want to see what it looks like on your skin, a tinted moisturiser, a foundation. So that's where bricks and mortar are key. And is prestige beauty, you would expect prestige beauty to be suffering with the cost of living crisis, but we see it continuing to perform well. This is year-to-date September, so we're in the midst of it. But, you know, we're seeing makeup up 17%, skincare up 16%. Fragrance is a little bit slower, but the bits of fragrance that are dropping out, we're seeing unit growth very slow. It's the smaller, less expensive fragrances that we're seeing in decline. And if I just finish off by looking at what's driving growth in these categories, now it doesn't mean they're declining, so I've put plus weight and minus weight. It's how much they are important to the category. So for example, in makeup, all of these subsegments are growing. But in fragrance, we're seeing growth from perfumes, odour perfumes, and gift sets with mini juices or a whole set of juices. So those are the trends in fragrance. And we're seeing the eau de toilettes and the aftershave are those that aren't performing so well. So we're not seeing consumers pulling away from spending money on fragrance. Makeup as well. It's some of the other sectors that we're seeing are overperforming foundation, mascara, and our traditional areas of makeup. There's been some great launches in blush, and that often will drive makeup. All other lip is a TikTok phenomenon. So a certain brand got a very big call out on TikTok for their lip oils, gone viral. And almost tripled that all other lip category. So it's lip products that don't go into colour, gloss or anything. So it shows now that there's this power of social media. And then concealers. So I don't know that we're all wearing foundation as much as we used to because we had the pandemic, we weren't wearing a full face, but we realised that we could use concealers. So those are also performing well. And then in the skincare space, it tends to be products that are about saving a bit of time. So all other face is products that have multi-benefits. They're not just a serum, they're not just a toner, they do several things. Sets and kits as well work well in skincare because you get a range of value products to buy into, or you get your hero product and other products around it that you want consumers to try. So, you know, my conclusion is that consumers who purchase prestige beauty, I get the impression they're not so much hit by the cost of living crisis as other consumers. And so at the moment, they're still, if you can't afford to go on holiday, you can afford to buy yourself a lipstick. So that's me, and I will now hand over to Catherine.
I should have said at the end we will be taking some questions. So after the panel, we're going to take questions at the end. I'm going to sit over here now.
Hi, I've never used a microphone in a non-singing environment, so this will be interesting. Anyway, thank you all for coming and making the journey this morning. I guess I want to start by asking each of the panel how they feel the beauty retail landscape has evolved over the last few years, what changes they've seen and what they see for the future. So, Vesa, as an industry expert, with your history from Fenwick and Harrods, I'll come to you first. And then ask each of the panel for their views.
Okay. Expert.
Yeah. Well, I thought veteran wasn't the right word, so I went for expert.
Oh, thank you.
You're welcome.
Sorry, can you repeat the question again, please?
Just your opinion on the changes that you've seen. Obviously, Helen's been through all of the data, and we know what all of the data is telling us, but from a store point of view, what changes have you seen in terms of how consumers are shopping, and what do you then see the trends continuing to be for the future, perhaps?
Yeah, I think the biggest change has been that it's changed from transactional to experiential, in that sense that the consumers are looking for something more, on top of that transaction. So it's almost like you need to entertain them when they enter that store, for example. And kind of like it's very much within our stores, for example, led by services. We are including more and more services into our everyday life within our stores.
Okay. Colette, I'll come to you.
Okay, so we were a brand that launched in 2018 in the skincare space, and it's been a wild ride. When we launched, it was kind of retail was God, and then COVID hit. DTC brands were coming in, shaking up the industry. COVID hit, we're all online, and now we've been shocked at the absolute swing back to retail. So it's been definitely a wild ride of 5 years of having a brand. I think for me, I see DTC brands and brands in general winning with consumer experience. You can offer such a tailored, personalised experience. We launched a recipe builder 3 years ago, and I've got 5 million people to have a completely tailored personalised experience with us, whereas retailers are only just starting that now. What I love is that there's like a levelling up. Retailers are now having to invest in technology and omnichannel because those brands are coming in and kind of offering those experiences to the consumer. So I think for me, the whole industry is levelling up. We don't know, I don't think we truly know what omnichannel means. Does anybody really know what that means? But I think we're all trying to find out.
Okay. And Leanne?
Put the microphone back.
I think with COVID, we maybe thought that it would go back to being more online, and perhaps lots of people said the high street's dead, but that isn't what we're seeing, and I don't think that's true at all. I think it's about creating an in-store experience that is going to drive that customer, and really thinking about customer first and what are they looking for in store and what are they looking for online, and tailoring the experiences to that. And I don't think you necessarily need to reflect exactly the same thing on in-store and online, but just creating and really thinking about what the customer's looking for and giving them those different experiences.
And Ruth, from a sort of a landlord's point of view, how do you see the landscape changing, and what role can you play in shopping malls and different things, and how brands are looking for new spaces?
Sure, it's a great question, and I feel like I've told these guys what to say, and they've said all the things I wanted them to say, but I promise you that was not the case. As Sally said, we are the, maybe the, or one of the, let's go with the biggest UK real estate investor. So basically we own and develop a lot of shopping centres across the UK. You guys will probably be familiar with a number of the shopping centres that we own. They are sort of in very key destinations across the UK and favourites for our consumers. So for us, it's really all about driving footfall and the experience. And everyone has said some great things. So I think it is just about when you go into a store, it's about having that just incredible experience, incredible customer service and wanting to come back. And when we're talking specifically about the beauty industry, and obviously, Helen, you've talked a lot about, whether you go in and you have your foundation matched or whatever that is, but it is about coming in and repeat visits. And all of our retail destinations are where we want to drive footfall, eyeballs, and just get more and more people coming back for that sort of all-day experience. So, yeah.
And then, Vesa, coming to you, obviously, Fenwick is a nationwide retailer with stores in lots of fantastic cities. How do you observe the differences in the consumer behaviour, and how do you then tailor that in your store strategies?
I think it has definitely changed a lot in the last couple of years because of social media, in that sense that I think, say 10 years ago, somewhere like Newcastle where we've got a store, it probably those trends would have come a couple of years later, maybe than in London, but because of social media, it catches on quicker even in those locations. But at the same time, I need to be mindful of that. We've got 9 stores plus our online that, we have the same message in all stores, but at the same time, tailor it to suit each location. And for me, definitely what I do is visit a lot of those stores to see the actual customer and the customer behavior, so that, you get to understand who that customer is, because it's one thing reading like sales reports and seeing that, okay, this must be a report, this must be a trend, but at the same time, you don't see what is actually happening there.
And of course, we have to talk about Bond Street because, everybody knows that the wonderful store with the best cafe with the little Smarties is closing. People might have the wrong perception as to why that store. So can you just sort of give the real reason?
So, we are still a family-owned business, and we've been around for 141 years. And, with the landscape changing so much, the family is thinking that where are we going to be in the next 140 years? And, even central London has changed so much, but, where we are doing so well, it is these regional market cities and towns, and we want to make sure that we stay in those locations and possibly even further stores in the future. But, these days, the customers don't expect necessarily just coming to central London to shop for their products or get their services. They want it at their doorstep, because working from home now, you don't need to travel as far.
We've talked a little bit about it, Colette, and you mentioned, does anybody really understand what omni-channel means? But can you share some insights into how the Inkey list does try to maintain a consistent and compelling customer experience in store and online, and just sort of give some tips for how you think that's evolving as digital does become so important, and like you say, consumers expect a lot when they're in store?
So I would say 2 things. One is Nima, hello, Head of Insights. We are insight obsessed. So really understanding what's going on in bricks and mortar and e-commerce. We know e-commerce is still growing. We expect it to grow plus 12% in the next 5 years. Hopefully for us a lot more than that. But also we can see 78% of people in the last 12 years, in the last 12 months in the UK have shopped in store. So 78% of people are physically shopping in stores. So we know they're everywhere. So really understanding those shifts, trying to get ahead of those shifts. So when people are starting to go back into store, you need to be there. You need to be working with your retailer and making sure you are where they are. I think for me, we are a brand that's in over 35 countries, multiple retail, plus our in DTC, it's tough. I think for me, it's defining the role of each channel. So for DTC, for us, this is about absolute hyper-personalised, tailored experience. We want somebody to come to the Inkey list and really experience the best of our brand. And we find somebody that goes through our recipe builder converts plus 80% versus someone that just comes on our site to have a look. So we are trying to capture that consumer in a very specific way through really making that site experience personalised to them. However, I am from retail. My background is boots, and I know the power of a retailer, especially bricks and mortar, where you can look, feel, try, and experience. So for me, you have to play the game, and it's pretty expensive at times to play the game with retail, but you've got to be where the consumer is. You've got to make sure you're part of everything that the retailer's offering, sampling, making sure you're distorting your brand as much. It's tough because you've only got so much money, so much time, energy, and resource, but balancing DTC, e-commerce, Amazon is now Google. It's a lot. You know, people are using TikTok Shop more than ever. That's a whole panel in itself. So for me, it's just identifying the role that each channel plays and really leaning into that. Do we have all the answers? No.
So Leanne, Space & K is obviously known for its great, curated selection of products. Can you share some insights into how that process of selection and then also the marketing has perhaps changed? Because obviously you are a retailer with, huge store presence in the UK, which is continuing to grow. So is there a difference between the online strategy and the in-store?
Yeah, so when we're selecting products, and which brands to work with and which products to assort, it's really thinking back to our kind of overall business strategy, which is to have the most in-demand brands and the icons of the future. And then the next step is to think about what's our customer really looking for. And everything we do is customer first. So when we're looking at the most in-demand brands, it's what are they searching for online? What are they coming into our stores and asking for us for? And when we launched Charlotte Tilbury, that was why we launched that brand, because everyone was searching for online, assuming that the brand was going to be there, and it was the number one most asked for brand in the stores. So we got that brand and brought it to life at Space NK for that reason. And then the other side of it is having the brands that are first to market, are first to the UK. It's offering our customers something different and something exclusive and new, and giving them the opportunity to discover, play with, test new products in store and online, and just allowing them to discover more in the beauty market. And the difference between in-store and online, I think, mainly is the size and the space that you've got. Online, we can obviously have a much broader product assortment, brand assortment, and then some of our stores, not all of them, are limited by space. So when we're thinking about the store assortment, again, it's going back to what is the customer shopping for in that store. Not every one of our stores has the same product assortment. It's really, again, going back to the customer and what are they looking for, what are they asking for, and what are they buying in those stores, and aligning the assortment, brands and products, in line with that.
And Ruth, just coming to you, obviously, we've talked about how important the store actually is, and that, that's still where the majority of trade is taking place. So what are some of the key factors that you look for in brands when you've got a retail space and you've got a new tenant coming? What does a brand or a business need to have?
Yeah, as I said at the beginning, we own a number of sort of very strong retail shopping centres across the UK, and we pride ourselves in being in areas of very strong catchments. So we are actually set up within our retail team in sectors. So my colleague Emma is over there. We sort of look after sort of the health and beauty as well as the tech side of life. So we really focus on the brands, who we want, our customers. We also work very closely with our sort of research and insights team, and they do a huge amount of work around, which brands are best for which catchments. So we're very tailored to, so for example, in central London, we may have different brands that we may have, for example, in Trinity Leeds. So yeah, I mean, a lot of the strong beauty brands are in our retail destinations, but it's just making sure that we curate the right mix and the right sort of adjacencies within our shopping centres. And I think in addition to that, we also do a lot of research with there's a piece of work that we've actually done around sort of our consumer insights, which really is sharing how our brands are doing with other brands. So what that really tells our brands is that, you know, let's say, for example, a Space NK, how are Boots doing? How are Charlotte Tilbury doing? And also, like, how are Zara trading? Obviously, a lot of this, there's a crossover, isn't there? So it's that halo effect of brands within shopping centres as well. So we look at all of that in the mix. And then we, obviously, it comes down to, someone alluded to the fact that it's expensive to have a retail store. Of course it is, absolutely. But we make sure that we are looking at sort of the profitability of the retailers as well, and really understanding how those retailers operate, and making sure that we've got them in the right pitch, and a rent that's sort of fair for both sides.
Okay. I think this is probably a question that all of the panel can answer, because Helen, you know, you talked about TikTok, so, you know, we can't not talk about, you know, marketing and how that has changed over the years, because obviously we know that, you know, retailers are like a house that are full of really great brands, and the retailer and the brands need to tell their stories. So, Leanne, can you give a bit of an insight as to how digital marketing and perhaps influencer collaborations have changed in the last few years?
Yeah, I think marketing as a whole and digital marketing has been around for a very long time, but as with everything, it evolves over time, and what's really driving businesses and conversation and customers to purchase and engage with our brand also changes over time. So I definitely think social has, for us, had a massive impact and growth in the brands that we're stocking and the performance that we're seeing, and that is across all platforms. So TikTok, yes, definitely, but Instagram as well continues to grow, and part of that is what content we're creating, and allowing our teams to take ownership of that and create the content that's right for those channels, versus me sitting there every day checking exactly what post they're all going to post, because they know that channel better than anyone else. And then the other side of that is creators, past known as bloggers, then influencers, now content creators, and working with them. We know that their audience trusts them, trust what they're talking about, and we at Space NK, especially over the past year, have really tied into that and looked at growing our partnerships with content creators to drive familiarity for the brand as well. Yes, we've got awareness, but I think the partnerships with creators really help to drive familiarity, talk to who you are, your products that you stock, and bring it to life a little bit more on the social space as well.
And Vesa, how would you see that translating into the shop floor? You know, so like Colette, I'm an old school retailer by heart, so it's all about those consultants. So how do you see, or how has the role of the digital influencer changed the consultant's role, and how do you feel the consultant responds to that sort of level of knowledge that the consumer is perhaps coming into the store with?
Yeah, and we are definitely seeing as well that there's more younger consumers coming into stores, showing on their phones what is trending on TikTok. We are definitely seeing that. But at the same time, I think also what has changed, that obviously there's so much info out there, and, you know, awareness in that sense that everything is on your hand now, because you turn up into a store with your phone, so you could Google there and then, where say 10 years ago you couldn't do that. So you really just trusted what the sales associate was doing, but at the same time, that's made it even harder for the sales associate now, because they really need to know everything, because they are going to be questioned like, is that true? Are you sure? So in that sense, that I do feel sorry at times for the sales associate, and me starting on the sales floor, I'm like, I don't know if I could go back anymore, because the questions from the consumers, you know, because of the education, you know, they are asking harder questions because they understand ingredients, for example. Again, like, you know, in skincare, in fragrance, they just understand that. So it has become more and more difficult, but at the same time, I think it's a good challenge at the same time for the sales associates.
And Colette, from your point of view with the brand, how have you seen the marketing and aspects change? And like you say, you've got so many followers, you're in so many countries. You know, how do those partnerships with retailers pan out, and the impact that those collaborations and partnerships with the digital influencers then translate into retail?
I think you can't see every channel, you know, old school, the way your company's set up is you have a marketing team and a sales team. It's just, you can't work like that anymore. You know, with social media being so important, we reached 1 billion views on TikTok last year. 1 billion eyeballs on our brand, it's wild. That has a huge impact on retail and people coming into stores saying, I saw this on TikTok. For me, this massive ecosystem, you need to be making sure you're understanding where the consumer is, what they're consuming, and how you can impact that. So for me, it's not as easy as saying, what are you doing on TikTok? And then what are you doing with your partnership with your retailer? Everything works hand in hand. And, you know, there's so many ways people are getting information now and consuming and, you know, getting that education and edutainment. You know, you've got apps like Skimrocks that are trying to help navigate. You've got brands like us that are absolutely trying to educate and help people to navigate the world. I think you've got to really think about everything together. If we're doing a partnership, you know, how does that play into the retailer? Are we sending them to our DTC or are we sending them to the retailer? I think you've got to think of the entire brand as an ecosystem, making sure that all boats are rising. If we do one thing, you know, we partner with the biggest influencer in the world, awesome, good for you, you've got great EMV. And what? Unless you then have, you know, the retailer understanding who that partnership is, how can we reutilize that content? How in stores can we be talking about it? You know, making sure that 360 everything's tying together, you're not going to win. And we've found that, you know, the good and bad. So, you know, last year we did a few things that we were like, nailed it. And, you know, our pop-up in Covent Garden was a good example of our first kind of retail moment. We were like, we've got this, it's an amazing experience. Did we make that 360? No, we didn't. So the people that experienced the pop-up, it was great, and that was it. Whereas the lip launch we've just done, we truly integrated with our retail partners. We went crazy on TikTok. I think someone over there knows the lip launch. It sold out. It sold out globally because everyone was working together and the launch worked on every touch point with the right influencers, with the retailers supporting us, with our DTC rocking. It's so complex now. Sorry, that was really long, but it's not easy.
I was just going to jump in so really quickly and say, I think you can almost go one step more actually, and it's almost like, yes, you've got to then make sure that then the retailers are on board with that, and they're then sort of speaking the same language. But then I guess even going one step further is ensuring that the landlords of the spaces that you're in, whether it be Covent Garden, whether it be, I don't know, Blue Water, somewhere else in central London, it doesn't really matter. It's almost then going further and making sure that that content is then going even wider. Just a little landlord plug there, but I had to do it.
Love that. Note to self.
I think, you know, we've talked about online and in-store. I guess how can retailers help to enhance that in-store and online, you know, partnership so that the consumer is feeling that they're getting the best of both worlds? I mean, Vesa, are there things that you're looking to do from a store point of view that help to make that collaboration be more seamless, I suppose?
Well, I think, like we've just discussed, that it needs to be this 360, but at the same time, kind of like, you know, what does store drive for online, but then what does the online drive into store? And in that sense, that kind of like, we consider online as our 10th store, in that sense that it's not a brick and mortar, but it is a store still for us, and kind of like, how can we bring that Fenwick look and feel online as if you were walk into our store? And I think, you know, that's really important, and kind of like we've just relaunched our online this year, and you know, it's, you know, totally different look and feel in that sense, but kind of like that's already at the same time giving the where we are going as our brick and mortar stores. So in that sense, that actually that's giving you the glimpse what we're going to do inside our stores, but also kind of like, you know, I think that's where you do kind of like, you know, what is available within our stores, for example, because if you just come in for beauty and you don't go any other departments, for example, how does the customer know what else is available? Or if they just shop one thing online, how can we make them aware what else we do?
And Colette, you mentioned it was expensive dealing with retailers. Can you give any insights into any sort of strategies or learnings that you as a brand have adopted to, you know, deal with some of the retailers' demands?
Yes.
In a nice way.
Yes, but unfortunately it is an investment, and I think we made sure, because of our background in retail, we didn't go into retail too early. So as a young brand, don't think you can just go into retail, put your products on the shelf and everything's good. It's actually the start of the investment and the journey, and I think retailers are looking for brands that are really going to go, you know, to that next step to make sure the brand works and make sure that you get that turnover. That first PO is not it. It's the second and the third and the fourth. So I think for us, it's playing the game and being really clear around the things that are going to add value. You have something so powerful in a retailer. Their database is massive. Their database loves them, and that database you should be trying to utilize as much as possible. So get your product out there. It's expensive, but sampling, and that's hard for us as a brand at our price point, but getting involved in sampling programs, initiatives that the retailers are doing, trying to distort your brand in multiple ways. Yes, you might not get the initial ROI of having that gondola end, but guess what? You've got X million more eyeballs on the brand, and in the long term it pays off. Personally, paying for banner space on retailer.coms is something that I am not a huge fan of. Because I think if you can distort in store, I think it's way more powerful, or I would rather use our money. This is totally just Inkey list. I'm giving you the 101 of Inkey here. I would spend that money on our own e-com, but I think sampling online and working with the retailers in that way, and kick-ass launches. If you can convince your retailer that you are absolutely going to smash this, bring traffic to their website, bring footfall into store, it's how do you partner with them to get the support from them, because if they believe that the launch is going to be big enough, they are throwing in freebies and, you know, really partnering with you to make it a success. So there's not a one-stop shop, but I think testing and learning, but eyeballs, sampling, and the last thing is reviews, investing in reviews. Customers are desperately, you know, as the guys were saying, you know, consultants have got it really tricky, because you're like, this is the best product. Hang on, it's got a 3-star review. I'm not interested. Thank you very much. So investing in reviews as well within retailers, and that costs money, because you know you have to partner with agencies to get those reviews. But that is game changing, because you can do all the selling you want, all the marketing. If the reviews are terrible, it ain't going to sell, I'm afraid.
And then I suppose from Leanne and Vesa, from the other side, what does the brand need to do to get your attention to, you know, to really have that great collaboration? Because we all know that it's a partnership, you know, great brands and great retailers that work really well together. So what are some of the things that brands could perhaps do to make sure that they're really being that great partner?
I think it's some of the things we've talked about in terms of that partnership, and really thinking about how is that product going to come to life, what is special about it, and sharing that with us, and then we can work together on a plan of how do we bring that to life 360 across all of the different marketing channels, across online and store. But I think the thing we really need to get is like, what makes that different? How is your product going to stand out against everything else that we've got within the product assortment? And that's from fun marketing initiatives, but all the way back to like, what actually is the product and what's different about it, and then you can really lean on that message and bring it to life and storytell around it.
And I think for us it's slightly different in that sense, that kind of like, because we are a department store, so we can't necessarily be as agile as retailers like Space & K, for example, in that sense that we need to be very mindful of like spaces and locations and staffing, for example. So hence the reason, if a brand is just launched DTC and, you know, it's trending on social media, we can't necessarily jump into that ASAP, because we wouldn't be able to give space for the brand and kind of like do justice, because everything we do is very branded, and within department stores the customers are expecting this branded experience. But at the same time, once the brand has built their, you know, business to that level, it is then great. And in that sense, kind of like, you know, again, like, what is the point of difference, and, you know, why is this better than somewhere else or at this brand next to it?
Okay, and I guess to sort of wrap up, and then we'll hopefully ask some questions, what do you all see as being the sort of the key challenges that either brands or retailers will face in the next 6 months?
I'm thinking about this one. I'm thinking, one of the things that jumps into my head actually is around sustainability. It's a hugely, I'm going to say hot topic, but it's not something that's super new, but I maybe within the beauty, and you guys will know way more than I do, but I think it's just something that's talked about a lot. Consumers are much more aware of what it is that they're buying. They're more, they're more conscious of what it is they're buying, and sort of that supply chain, what that looks like in fashion and in all sort of sectors. So I think for us, as a landlord, we've actually done a lot of work we've sort of recently actually launched a paper on sustainability. And one of the things that came out of that is just really making sure that the brands are actually sort of working on this together with, whether it be with department stores, whether it be with landlords, and just trying to sort of figure it out together a little bit. But I do think, and guys, please correct me if I'm wrong, there is definitely a huge emphasis on, balanced with the cost of living crisis, of course, because a lot of these more sustainable products can be at the top end of that sort of price point. So I think watch that with interest. I think that's something we need to be really, really aware of. Yeah.
And it's tough, guys, because as brands and retailers, you're trying to be everything. There's a cost of living crisis. People don't want to spend more. Discounting scares the living daylights out of me at the minute. We're in November, you're going to see it. It's happening right now. You're trying to be sustainable. We're a B Corp, so we don't have a choice of being sustainable. We have to make sure we have the highest standards. But trying to do the right thing, trying to sell, and the insane amount of discounting that's going on, and I would imagine it's going to get even worse. It's tough. It's tough to compete. Retailers competing against each other, brands competing against each other. It's wild, and I'm dreading to see the next couple of months and the discounts that are happening. It's not sustainable for us to keep discounting as heavily as we are. And it's quite interesting, the difference in the UK for me to somewhere like the US. So most of our business is in Sephora, and they do 2 sales a year, and that is it. And they refuse to discount outside of that, which as a brand, that is kind of everyday affordability, works very well for us. In the UK, I'm petrified because everybody is discounting. Like, retailers are discounting our brand without us even knowing. Yeah. And it's a really tough time. Amazon is tough because they are literally price matching as we go. So I think sustainability is a mainstay that's going to be a challenge to us all, but in the short term, discounting is tough. I mean, the consumers have got it made. They can literally shop around and find their best product on TikTok, go on a brand's website, find all the information, and then go buy it on Amazon for cheap. It's petrifying.
Yeah, and I think adding to that discount, we're coming up to Black Friday, it's going to happen, but I think every year it gets longer and longer and longer, and we're trying to, as a retailer, stay away from that and not have that level of discounting. And I think the big challenge is, okay, what else can you do that's going to bring the consumer onto your site, into your store, that isn't about just having 20% off, 25% off constantly, and that extra bit that we can do that ensures, as a retailer of brands that other retailers stock, how do we maintain that relationship with our customer and bring them back to us versus just going for the cheapest price?
And is that where Indulge in the loyalty?
Yeah. So our loyalty program is really key to that. We've got anyone that uses Indulge and shops via Indulge has amazing retention at Space NK, and I think that is one of our key levers of how we get them to come back again and again and again. And so the challenge is, how do we get those new customers to come back? And with TikTok, when we've got customers under 16 now that we can't sign up to Indulge, how do we get them to come back, and how do we continue that relationship with them as well during that discount period?
I just wanted to add a bit on the conversation on sustainability, because I think brands and retailers are starting to do things, but it hasn't taken off yet. You've got retailers with their bring back your empty bottle stores, we've got brands with it. I don't know how many consumers are actually adopting that. We've got some corporations who are launching every single fragrance as refillable, but consumers aren't refilling their fragrances. So I think there's a big education point from both brands and retailers as to why they should be refilling their fragrances, because at the moment you can get refillable face creams, but I don't think that many people are that aware or are doing it. If you are bought as a present a refillable fragrance, by the time it's run out, you've thrown the box away, you've thrown away all the instructions as to how to refill it. So I think it's going to get bigger. For sure it's going to get bigger, but at the moment we're just at the beginning, and we need consumers to get a lot more interactive with what's happening.
Great. Thank you.
It's amazing. From a brand point of view, well, from a small brand point of view, we're still suffering from the PTSD that came with COVID, right? So we're attracting the work that we were doing within retailers and saying goodbye to staff that we loved and kind of billing, point of sale and that type of thing. God, in fact, talking about it now is bringing back the chill. So, you know, we have all, you know, been thinking about kind of dipping our toes back into retail again. And it's reassuring to meet you guys and hear about that today. We hear a lot from agencies or people who are offering things like pop-up space. And it's not something that I've done before. And it's, you know, it seems like, you know, like a good idea to kind of dip your toe back into retail again. I'm wondering if the panel have any insights on that, or whether retailers are still interested in bringing in brands for a certain amount of time in small spaces to see how that works.
Colette, do you want to ask? Because you did a wonderful pop-up.
Yes, I suppose it depends on the life stage of your brand. I would say in order to have a pop-up, you are going to have to drive that footfall there. So if you have a very engaged community that you think you can grab, and you know, you can do things like meet and greets with celebs and influencers and stuff to kind of draw them in, but it's tough going. You've got to the outlay of the cost, you've got to staff it. It's a big endeavour. If you've got the confidence that you can bring that footfall, then go for your life, because that experience, and you know, we didn't get a huge classic ROI from the pop-up that we did, but even today, you know, oh, I loved your pop-up last year, I got to learn more about your brand. So understanding what's the purpose of the pop-up, is it retail or is it brand awareness and engagement is one thing, but I think if you can do it with a retailer, if you are a smaller brand, I think you've got the comfort of them, you know, the juggernaut that is their database, and you can kind of lean on them a little bit more if they're willing to kind of give you that kind of pop-up space, etc. It's a big undertaking to do it yourself, for sure.
Yeah. And I think from a retailer point of view, in that sense, that if you come to us and say, listen, we want brand awareness, for us, we're like, no, we need sales. So that needs to be, you know, the main aim here, in that sense, that to come to us with a proposal and be like, listen, this is how we're going to drive the sales and, you know, the footfall into the store. And then for us to be like, okay, well, what are we going to do from our part, you know, to support that? Because it needs to be a partnership, in that sense that it takes a lot of work to do a pop-up. It's not, you can just turn it on like that. You know, you do need to do a lot of planning to execute it well, because at the same time, how will the customer see it, perceive it, you know, experience it, you know, because if that's the first time they come across your brand, you know, you need to be very mindful of that.
Yeah, and I think to add to that, we've done a number of pop-ups with brands in partnership with them and with different objectives, but I think if you're going to do something for awareness, it's thinking about that long term as well. So how does it not become just a moment in time? How is it, because it is, like you say, so much work, so much time, so much effort, I think it's really thinking about, okay, what's next after that? How do you maintain that over a period of time? So it's not just, we've done all this thing, yes, we saw a little blip, but what's next as well?
I just wonder as well whether there is an opportunity for like Landsec and the landlords to actually create more of a cut-paced kind of space within some of these malls. It was forever difficult trying to drive the pop-ups, all the work, all the cost, and actually trying to negotiate that as a retailer was always really difficult. And I do think that if the malls modernise, actually everybody can benefit from that, the newness, the footfall within the wider mall, the cost for the brand, delivering the sales, etc. So that's, you know, in the future, I would love to see that opportunity, because I think everybody wins.
Well, the good news is you don't have to wait into the future. We've got it already. Plug and play, ready to go. It's a great point. Yeah, we are very aware that, you know, we do like to trial newness and pop-ups. And we actually, a couple of years ago, launched a product called Platform and Platform Plus. So retailers can come in, they're not in all of our shopping centres, but they are in some, and we can give you some more information if you need. But yeah, it's exactly to that point. You can come in, maybe trial it for a month, you can trial it for 3 months, you can trial it for a week. So it is a case of you come in, you set up, we've got people on, you know, ready to help you. Obviously, you've got the cost of staffing it and all of that, but yeah, we're all over it. So let's talk.
Any other questions?
question I have, so we spoke about the physical store and then the digital experience, but as we're moving forward, we're seeing this kind of merge, and I know this word, people get the shivers, but this digital experience, where do you see this going, and how does that tap into the hyper-personalisation that people are expecting in stores? Are you trying to experiment in this area, or have you seen any best cases as well?
Yeah, I think it's still thinking about what's the customer, whilst they're getting closer and closer together, I think it's still thinking about what's the customer wanting from an online shop and what are they wanting from in-store. And yes, you should still have that same great brand experience across both, and there are things, so we know people coming to our stores to interact with product and interact with people, so we've not going to be putting in like magic mirrors in the store that mean you can try it on digitally, because you can try the product on there. So it's like, what are you doing digitally in stores and for what reason? But to the point of product personalisation, we have so much data about our customers, and what we're trying to do is really get that data from the online into stores as well. So if someone comes in and asks about a product that they've purchased in the past, or what was that perfume I bought last year, we can give them that information, so it's a bit more personalised and kind of sharing the data across the two channels, but really still thinking about why are they online and why are they in store, and not just doing something for the sake of it, really thinking about why you're doing that.
So we have tried as a brand to bring those two things together, and in North America we currently have a QR code on our fixture, which takes you straight through to our Ask Inkey customer service. So they are a team of skincare experts. So we've had huge success online with that, with people going, I don't know what retinol is, or I'm pregnant, what do I use? And just those really practical questions when you're shopping online or in store. You know, what is that ingredient? Or, oh, I heard about this thing, or does that go with that? Just really practical questions. We've brought that service into store so people can, if there isn't a consultant there, they can truly be able to answer that question. That then links into, to your point, into the database. So then when they have a digital experience, that's all logged. So anything they're doing in a Sephora store, when they go back online and interact with the recipe builder or our team online, we can then track everything they've done. So that's us trying to kind of bridge the gap. Our role in skincare is to provide knowledge and support. How are you doing that online, and how are you doing that in store? Because we can't have consultants in every single door that we're in. So that was us. We're starting to dip our toe into the digital.
There was I saw one question at the back.
You've spoken about sort of the power of social media, of TikTok, and I'm really interested to understand from our launch brand how you balance essentially thinking for a more trend-led brands, or brands maybe have something that's gone viral on TikTok, and those brands that are there for longevity, or perhaps in trying to make a huge difference in their sustainability, or they have a sort of global trend.
I think in terms of TikTok from a retailer perspective, it's about educating the store team on what's trending on TikTok for sure. It's a whole new world for them as well, and a new customer coming in. And we've done things like allow the store teams to merchandise the tables at the front of the store with what's trending in their store then and there, and what they're seeing people coming in and asking for, and which allows it to change quite quickly as well. So I think from our side, it's really thinking about that of like, how do you change things? How do you make it really easy for, if a product's trending, it's there, the customer can see it straight away, and then you can move that around the store as things change. But being able to be as agile as possible, both in store and then the same online, making sure that we're following those trends and having the trends visible on the homepage, on our social, on our marketing, and changing it over time as things change and products and brands go viral over time.
Can you easily get the stock in if you know something's going to go viral on TikTok?
That's the challenge. I think there's two parts of it. There's being able to get the stock from the brands, which we have less control over, but there's being able to get the stock from the warehouse into the stores, and that we do have a really strong process for, and that's where we're trying to lean into more of technology and AI in terms of using that information, that AI, to drive newness and stock into stores as quickly as possible once we start seeing it trending in stores as well.
Interesting.
It's a great question. Bane of everyone's lives.
Yeah.
Is it me?
Yes.
Fabulous, thank you so much. Really, really enjoyed that. And I really resonate with the shivers that come with the discount chat. So that's great. But you touched on the Indulge loyalty scheme. I just would love to know what do you think the key components are to a really successful scheme, really taking into consideration that discount, as we know, is a huge, huge driver.
Yeah, I think there's a number of things. It's about having a scheme that means something to the customer as well. So we have a point scheme, which allows you to collect points over time and then essentially get a voucher, a bonus for those points. So it helps build it up over time, so it's not just, most of the time it's not within one purchase that you're going to get that voucher. So again, it's driving loyalty, and we have so much data from that if someone's purchased twice, we know they're going to go on to purchase 3, 4, 5 times onwards and become really loyal. So with that data, we know that that's a strength for us. And then it's on top of that, what are you doing that's lots of brands and lots of retailers have loyalty points, and it's more than that. So we offer different gifts with purchase. When you're an Indulge member, you get access to things, you get access to the sale before anyone else. So it's a bit more than that. And then along with it comes all of the wealth of data and being able to personalize and send people more personalized marketing. Emails are more personalized because we've got that data. And then the store experience as well. They have that login to the Indulge account, so they can see what they've purchased online, what they've purchased in store, and then vice versa. Online, you can see what you've purchased in store. So I think it's really thinking about what's going to get the customer to tick, what are they interested in, doing a bit more than just a points program. That helps with retention, but what can you do that's going to stand out from everyone else as well?
Fantastic. Just to say thank you very much. Oh, that's gone off. I'm going to sing in a minute. It's gone off. It's gone off. It's gone off. It's gone off. Oh no, it's not. I've got 2 mics now. That's even more dangerous. Thank you ever so much to the panel. I think certainly, and thank you to Landsec. We're delighted to bring this conversation to the floor this morning in partnership with you. We're definitely going to be revisiting this topic regularly as we move forward. So do please keep an eye on that on our channels. For sure, the TikTok conversation is, we're definitely going to be. We've got a tech summit in April, and TikTok are already on the agenda to come and talk. So I'm sure that'll be an absolutely packed session. And I know that Christmas is going to be, this next few weeks are going to be challenging for everybody. It was terrifying to be sitting on a beach in August and see advent calendars. Actually, that was terrifying. But now also to see all of those discounts happening much sooner. But I guess everybody's in it together. So it'll be interesting to look when we get to January, February, March next year to actually what happened. I'd read about the US model and the kind of discount periods. I think it's a fantastic idea. If we could bring something like that here, it would make life a lot easier for sure. So hopefully some learnings will be made. But anyway, thank you ever so much for coming. Do keep in touch. We'll see you soon. Thank you, panel. You're wonderful.